What's up, LEGO builders? Over the past year, I've been churning out mechs like Palpatine was with Star Destroyers and Rise of Skywalker. I've also been trying to clone a Gungan version of myself with about as much success as he had. And while it's been fun learning to be a Gungan, building all those mechs, I'm getting tired of using the same blueprints. I want to challenge myself to make a bold new design, and today, we're going to see if I can make that happen. If you're hyped, make sure to open fire on that like button, and let's get building. When it comes to mechs, the best place for me to start is with the feet and legs. These hold up the build and help set the aesthetic for the rest of the mech. It doesn't matter how cool the head and body are, if it's stumbling around on chicken legs and small feet, your mech will be doomed to the scrap pile. And we all know what happens there. Bruh. In the spirit of building a new style of mech, I picked a different color scheme because this isn't another Protectorate build, and longtime viewers should get a fun callback to the days of Utapau and Kato Nemoidia, when dark tan dominated my builds in LEGO hauls. Lime green is a color I've been wanting to work with for a while and looks great when paired with dark tan in moderation. Now, moderation is key with lime green. I feel like I'm always just 3 bricks away from building the next Sprite mascot, so I gotta be careful. I'm building the legs in 2 sections similar to a human's, but the thigh area is going to be built in a 90-degree angle, almost like a crouch. This will give the leg the appearance of having an extra joint, making it much more stable. This is actually a smaller and slightly different version of a leg I previously built for a different mech. Let me know in the comments if you recognize which one this design is from. I added some sloped wedge bricks to the outside as armor and some spikes on the back for some extra intimidation. Having that extra 90-degree angle in the thigh helps the legs look more explosive and stable, like an athlete crouched before the sprint or a tiger about to pounce, which is just the right vibe for this war machine. Next up is the body, and this is where things really start to look different. In the intro, I said I was tired of using the same blueprints, and what I meant by that is the mech army I've been building is for a small alien race called the Quadronids. They pilot the mechs using these pods, and each vehicle needs to have a similar docking port so the pilots can be interchangeable. This, combined with the fact that I'm building a cohesive military force, means many of the designs look similar. Like how there's different versions of the same military vehicle. It's often more efficient to repurpose an existing design into a new function than to create a new one from scratch. I say all this as someone who has years of zero military production experience, but it makes sense to me, so that's what I'm going with in this case. All this to say, I've built different versions of the same mech and I want to try something new. In particular, I want to make a minifig compatible humanoid battle mech. I want actual arms and fingers that can move and communicate, and a cockpit big enough for him. That being said, complete arms and other appendages were something I've previously been too intimidated to try making. But I've been practicing trying to work my way up to that level, and there's really only one way to get better at something, which according to the internet is watching people do that thing online and criticizing them. One thing that helps me come up with a vision or design for a mech is understanding its purpose and function. I knew I wanted this to have a humanoid build, so I decided this will be some kind of Special Forces commando mech. I started thinking about what I would need to include to represent that type of soldier, adding things like grenade launchers, sensors, and other tech to the torso to help this feel more like a sci-fi super soldier, and just wait until you see what I have planned for the cockpit. I bought these blades for a helicopter mock and never ended up using them, so I decided to repurpose them into antennas or sensors that'll protrude from the back of the mech like spines, or maybe some kind of self-defense mechanism. I struck gold in a recent Bricklink order and found these fixed angled plates that will work perfectly for arms. So perfectly, I'm assuming this was for a Ninjago dragon or mech set. I used some inverted slopes to round out the underside and stuck a 2x2 socket joint which will connect the arm and shoulder. With that large plate as the base, this arm was surprisingly easy to make and looks really strong. This guy's definitely hitting his macros. I tested out a few different finger designs and found these little bar holder with clip pieces work the best. I made sure to add a thumb so this mech can show its approval and these arms are ready to go into place. So far, so good. Now, if I don't screw up the head, this mech should be a success, but sometimes that's where people aren't careful and this happens. I've had this dark tan windshield piece sitting around that was begging to be used as a mech canopy. I just need to figure out how. When it comes to building cockpits, I almost always start with these inverted slope bricks. The middle has a great opening for a minifig while still having sloped walls on either side that partially hide the fig, so the side walls don't need to be as tall. I stuck a double clip on the back and raised it up higher than the front, that way the canopy would come down over the cockpit at an angle, giving the pilot a larger surface area to look through. I then placed a series of slopes and wedge plates around the edge, trying to match the curve of the dark tan canopy piece. This is where the fun really begins. I've had this weird idea to build a set of thermal optics for a mech. I got this idea from the transformer called Lockdown and his external optics, which don't really make sense on a robot, but man, it looks so cool. I went with 3 optics because 2 looked like the mech was putting on some spectacles to read the Sunday paper. And that completes the cockpit, and all that's left is the weapons. I was so focused on the mech, I didn't really think about what it would be wielding. It's got hands and fingers, which means it can pick up different weapons, so it would be a waste to permanently weld some guns on like I normally do. I decided to equip it with a standard rifle the size of a motorcycle and a combat knife that could probably slice a car in half. The knife was easy, but the rifle took some experimentation. I decided it would be good to include some kind of magazine to help this more look like an actual gun. I used some headlight bricks and ingot pieces to create that, and using a 1x1 clip and bar piece, I was able to connect it to the rifle at an angle which looks really cool. I am so excited to assemble everything and see how this commando turned out. But a mech of this caliber needs a proper mock to display it, so I'm going to build a loading bay for those glamour shots. These 8x8 plates with the grate pattern are always a good option for any kind of gritty sci-fi bay. I only have 8 to use, so I added some tile around the edges of each one to create a larger base to work on. These will connect together forming the floor, and I stuck black plate under the grating so it looks like there's an open space below. That way workers can spray the mech off and work on it with water, oil, and other spilled refuse draining away through the floor. This is a freeform base of sorts, not being built on a base plate, and I want the edge to feel like it's a part of the mock somehow, so I'm lining it with a light bluish gray band that's slightly sloped on the edges, to further hammer home that gritty industrial vibe. I've built mech bays in the past, but this guy doesn't come from the factory below Lantern Industries, so I need a new setup. I have this gantry crane I built for my Mimban mock last year, and I decided to modify it to work for mechs. That meant making it a lot taller and longer, but keeping the overall design the same. I'm really proud of the hoist apparatus, which can actually slide back and forth on the main beam and looks somewhat technical. This will carry parts needed for fixing the mech as well as power cells to feed its hungry components. This whole thing slides around on a track built into the floor. I recently went and saw the latest Avatar movie, and one thing I really liked, besides watching whale wars in space, were the scale suits the humans were using. Less bulky and more fragile than the amp suits, I think they did poorly in combat, but work great in a logistics capacity. I've been wanting to up my logistics game, and having little mechs walking around carrying guns, ammo, and other larger supplies is going to be more interesting than having a fleet of forklifts. I did make this capable of having 4 arms, but I'm probably not going to go that route because I don't want this guy to develop a cough and start collecting lightsabers. He'll be joined by a crate of ammo and other random boxes, and this work bay is ready to outfit a battle mech. There are those in life who wear the heavy yoke of responsibility, set apart for the protection of the innocent and unarmed from horrors they can't even fully comprehend. The yoke weighs heavy, and yet, those called to this labor need not bear it alone. Encased in steel monsters of their own, they patrol the desolate wastelands and crowded cities, holding back the tide threatening to swallow everything in its path, fighting against those who would claim dominion over the lands and resources these mechs guard. The fight never ends, but neither does the courage and strength of those who pilot these metal wardens. And soon, the time will come for them to emerge and become the bearers of fear and destruction. New parts used? Check. New design created? Check. Over the top unnecessary accessories? Check. It's so nice to finally feel like I can actually build a full humanoid mech with hands and arms. I can't reveal who this mech belongs to, what they're doing, or even where they are, but you best believe they're making moves in the shadows, preparing, planning, and soon they'll make their presence known. I love the little exosuit as well, and it'll definitely be showing up in the future as the technology of this world continues to spread and evolve. That's a wrap for this video. Let me know what you think of the mech in the comments, and until next time, happy building.